Hey everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch Project. So they want you to believe that humans have been around for 200,000 years, but we've only had civilization for 6,000. So for 200,000 years, or give or take 6 or 7,000 out of that 200,000, humans must have existed in some kind of social construct that didn't involve government. We have no recorded history of anything like that before 6 or 7,000 years ago. Now, you may have heard of somebody by the name of Graham Hancock, and he has written many books, and there's many YouTube videos with his interviews and presentations. He is brilliant, and he questions our human history and points out that, if you look at all of his material and other people like him, and there are many, but they're sort of suppressed. The authorities of knowledge don't like to refer to any of these people or debate them. We have human history that is lost or missing or hidden. So we really don't know everything about ourselves. But one thing I'd like to point out to you is that for 6,000 years, humans have behaved similar in the aggregate all over the world. Humans have behaved kind of like a giant cargo cult. If you don't know what a cargo cult is, it essentially during World War II, our soldiers set up bases and airfields in these Pacific islands where people lived that never saw technology of the 1940s. They were still living in pre-technological ways, very simple lives. So when they saw all this technology, they tried to mimic it. They created straw planes, and they copied what they saw, and they created a religion based on it, and basically thought of the soldiers as godlike. So, is it possible that something happened to humanity? I want you to also keep in mind that this is just one of many ways. This is sort of a gray area for me. Essentially, what I think is going on is that humans, when you're in the human form, you're a spirit that's been reduced in its consciousness to process reality in the human body, and then we get tricked into reincarnating over and over again, possibly to feed some sort of spiritual parasites or something like that. And don't get all depressed. I keep forgetting to mention that I think there's a way out of here. And to simplify that, let me just say that you should take life seriously, but not literally. As you can see here, my wallpaper is from the next Lara Croft Tomb Raider game, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And I want you to keep in mind that we don't really know what is accurate information about our past, because science, even science today, has adopted what many ancient cultures thought, like the Mayans and the Buddhists and the Gnostics, that this reality is a deception, it is an illusion. And For example, if you're playing Tomb Raider, which I played the last two games, and I thought they were great. I like gaming, I like sci-fi, I like comic books, I like all these fictional works that, especially when they embed esoteric information, I think comes out by accident in these works from the subconscious. But you have science today saying that we might live in a simulation. So when I'm talking about 200,000 years of human history, or planet that's billions of years old, keep in mind that we really don't know what is real history and what is apparent history. So, for example, I want you to contrast the physical evidence of history with thinking that you're in or processing the possibility that this is also a sort of a simulation. So here's Lara Croft on my wallpaper from the next Tomb Raider game. As you can see, behind her is a Aztec or Mayan pyramid, and that pyramid, of course, is ancient, but it isn't, right? The game is created in the present, and in the game there is ancient stuff. So the game comes with a fictional history. So there is no ancient pyramid there, right? It's a simulation. So the history, you jump into her life as you play through the game, and you are manipulating this person who is of a certain age. But really, let's take it to the extreme. How do you know this whole thing didn't start last week, and everything that you think is old, just got placed that way, if you understand what I'm saying? But let's just, for the sake of this video, assume that Earth is really, really old, and because of the physical evidence, we'll just take it at its face value. Humanity's been around for about 200,000 years. So what happened in the last 6,000 that we decided, hey, you know what we should do? We need to create a thing called the state, statism. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some people out of our civilization of humanity, and we're going to give them privileges and rights above other humans, and we'll even elevate some of them to God status. And pretty much universally, every version of a state, no matter how loose it is with its tyranny or how strict it is with its tyranny, they all will claim the right to rob and extort from people, its citizenry, and we'll call that a tax, and we'll say that it's moral. Now, where did we come up with this idea? Who invented it? Why did it take nearly 200,000 years to come up with this stuff? Now you have things like the Sumerian King List, which is an ancient document that lists all these kings, and some of them lived really long time, like 28,800 years, 36,000 years, and so forth. Now these are really interesting, the Sumerian tablets. I don't subscribe to the Sitchinites out there who think that the Anunnaki aliens were here to mine gold. There is nothing in these tablets. There is nothing in the Sumerian stuff that you can research for yourself. Here's the electronic database of the Sumerian literature, translated by Oxford University, and you can read them all for yourself. There are thousands and thousands of these tablets that have been translated, and there's nothing about aliens coming here for gold, but there is a core element of all these stories that human beings were created as slaves. And that premise does ring true when you look at the total evidence. Okay, human beings have a serious mental problem in the aggregate, in general, where we do really, really weird and stupid things, and in some places, and in other places we are brilliant. So it's almost like we are schizophrenic, or our minds are broken. I believe it's all to keep up chaos and confusion. The more chaos and confusion there is, the more so-called loosh, or whatever food that we generate, energy that we generate for our parasites that we make, right? So, and if you think about it, as I've said before, the state, in a sort of a weird as above, so below, is a human mirroring of a parasite, right? It sucks out the life energy of its citizens. It doesn't really give you anything good back. It creates arbitrary rules that aren't based on any kind of real morality. For example, if you are in New Jersey, it's illegal to pump your own gas. But if you're in other states, most other states, you can. Now, are there different humans in New Jersey? They can't pump gas? I'm just giving you that as an example. Government, states make arbitrary rules that are not based on good or versus evil, or to protect you. They're just like, you can't do this here, you can do it there. We're going to take your money. How much? It depends on where you live. And all these arbitrary rules and regulations that control us and monitor us all the time. And it is sort of like interesting to me that suddenly, 6,000 years ago, we allegedly created this system of government and humanity. I was just wondering, are we mimicking things like cargo cults? Was there something here before? We have potentially a lost history when you look at the Plato's account of Atlantis. What was he really talking about? Was there a different thing going on here? Were we invaded? On my homepage, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, I have a permanent quote from the book The Active Side of Infinity from Carlos Castaneda, where he basically, that's some shaman told him, Don Juan told him this, basically, that we were invaded, and the predator, the invader, gave us their mind, and that is why we are the way we are. If you read it, it is profound, and you'll see why I posted it there. So if you look at the total body of evidence, we are expected to believe really ridiculous stuff from these so-called authorities. And now people want to say like the authority of government or the authority of a state is a myth, like someone like Larkin Rose says. But there's also this official authority telling you what to think, what is news, what's in fashion. And I don't subscribe to any of this stuff. I've always resisted this stuff. But then I see a lot of people out there that are like mindless hordes. They're like zombies, mindless people. Now, another thing I wanted to ask you or to consider is, where did the mindless hordes get their marching orders from? Lately, if you've been watching my Minds, I'm on Minds. Let me go show you how to get there. Minds.com. If you go to my website, overwatchproject.com, and you click on my Minds button at the top there, you'll be taken to my Minds page. And you'll notice that I do link to a lot of stuff that has to do with ComicGate, Gamergate, and it's fascinating to me because these so-called, right today, they're called social justice warriors. I believe sometimes they could be referred to as organic portals, other times non-player characters. In the ancient Gnostics referred to them as Hylics. And so for thousands of years, people have recognized a certain portion of the population as behaving this way. And they seem to act as a collective hive mind. They don't seem to have any ability to reason. Now, they could be just people that have been reincarnated here so many times, their spirits are essentially broken. And it's funny because everything that they've done lately has backfired. Backfired in a big way. For example, they've pretty much wrecked the big company comic book industry, and their sales are in the toilet. So a couple of people on Indiegogo, like Ethan Van Sciver from Comic Artist Pro Secrets, he has raised a whopping, I don't know what it is now, $300,000 to produce a single comic just because it doesn't have any of that political garbage in it. And I have to wonder, because there is all this instability. It's constant, right? It's constant chaos. And maybe that's what generates whatever the archons or the demiurge wants. And where do you get the most chaos from? Anybody that's emotionally charged. If you can get somebody emotionally unbalanced, where they can't even reason anymore, that is like, in the art of war, that's where you want people, because they can't, they just get spastic then. They get completely out of control. Some of them have been showing up on my channel lately, on my YouTube channel, posting stupid comments, and I don't care, because if you don't want to know what I think, there's like a billion other YouTube channels out there, there's other websites, television, whatever. And you don't have to listen to anything I have to say. I don't care. I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm not here to preach. I'm just sharing and offering people a opportunity to look at my source material for themselves so they can do their own research. It's sort of like a place where you can go and take a look at a lot of information I've collected over the years and research it for yourself so that you can come up with your own model of reality. It doesn't have to agree with me. I have issues, gray areas that I haven't resolved. For example, this thing with humans being around 200,000 years, but only having created civilization for 6,000. Why is that? Where did that come from? How could that be? What were we doing before that? What were we like? Were we invaded? Or were we originally created as a slave race for some other entity? And where did they go? Because they don't appear to be around anymore, at least not physically. But it's almost like humanity was abandoned. If you listen to Mark Passio, he uses the term cosmic abandonment. It is like we have issues, right? So did our creators, for lack of a better word, did the whatever tinkered with DNA here on Earth to create the human form, which is a very imperfect form that has a lot of issues? Was that done, and then where did they go? Why aren't they physically around? Were they physically around before? Did we worship them as gods, and then they abandoned us, and then we mimicked them like a cargo cult and created government to pretend that we still have this authority over us? I hope you're following what I'm trying to say here. This is a complex issue, but just something to think about. I'm going to post these links in the description section below so that you can check all this stuff out for yourself. For example, here's an article from Forbes. Why haven't we found civilization older than 7,000 or 8,000 years? They try to give you an answer here. I don't necessarily agree with it. These early humans lived 300,000 years ago, but had modern faces. So we were around for 300,000 years now, and only in the last 6,000 we suddenly decided to, hey, let's create a tyrannical system to oppress everyone, and we'll give it special rights. There are so many mysteries about the human past, or if you think about it as a simulation. Look, if we are caught in a reincarnation trap, I also don't want people to get all this negativity of feeling depressed or upset about it. I want you to think of it this way. At least this is how I view it. I view it kind of like a game. A game that I got tricked into playing. Now, the game is something you should take seriously, but not literally. If you consider our reality to be more of a simulation, you take it seriously because you want to win to get out, but you don't take it literally because you know it's a simulation. So you have to complete your life here, and I believe that you have to that the way you accumulate sort of like points in the game is knowledge. The more you know, the more lucid you become about the situation of our reality. When you get to the final level, which is immediately after your body dies, you will then have the best shot of completing the final level and getting out. I don't think it's that complicated. I don't think it requires rituals, or I don't think it requires anything fancy. I think it is a mere knowledge-based thought process that if you can get through life and learn about all this stuff, when you get out, you will not be tricked or agree to reincarnate here again. If you think of the universe, the entire universe possibly as being this matrix that we're in, you want to explore outside. And it may just be a thought. You just need to think your way out. Because people that have near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences travel places by mere thought. Just thinking about going somewhere, and then you are there. So you want to think about exiting the entire matrix, even if that is the entire universe. And you may want to consider the fact that you may have to leave here alone. That doesn't mean you can't tell your loved ones and your family members or friends, if you want to, what you think. But they do reveal the rules of the game in different places. For example, if people get married, they tell you you're married until death do you part. I know people want to think that they can leave with their close other ones together, but I don't think so. Both people would have to leave the matrix individually. I think that it's designed to keep you here. Any attachment will pull you back in. So you have to be willing to leave alone if necessary, and you have to be it's kind of casual about it, really. There's no reason to be afraid. There is no reason to underestimate yourself or to overestimate the enemy, the parasites, the archons, the demiurge. If they were really, really powerful, they wouldn't need to trick everybody into everything. They trick you into agreeing because they can't violate free will. That's what I think. Inside this reality, we have very limited free will. Kind of like when you're playing any kind of RPG or first-person shooter or any kind of game where your avatar can do things that you decide that your avatar should do within the confines of the game with the game's rules. So you sort of have free will, but not really, because there are limits to what you can do outside of the body. Though when you're done, I think you have a really good chance of getting all your free will back, and all it requires is you to be focused and have knowledge. So what do you think about this? Humans have been around for 200,000 years, but we decided to create tyranny 6,000 or 7,000 years ago. What a great idea that was. Not too many millions and millions of people killed over that idea. Where did it come from? And what will it take for humanity to not behave like a giant cargo cult, pretending to worship something that doesn't really exist? Okay, that's it for this video. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.